Since the initial teaser trailer back at E3 2019, the opening sequence for Tears of the Kingdom has been shrouded in mystery. And every time we've gotten an update, we look to see if there's maybe some way we can finally connect how everything comes together at the beginning of the game. However, even with the most recent update that is the longest trailer yet that we got during the February 2023 Nintendo Direct, we still don't have the entire picture put together. That said, I think we're closer than ever before. So in this video, we're going to be talking about how everything may be connecting, some of the changes that we're seeing, and also putting together a little bit of an actual trailer or opening cutscene for the very beginning for The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom.
Hey, listen!
Welcome everyone, this is On Just Restart, and in this video we're going to be attempting to put together somewhat of a trailer or opening cutscene for the beginning sequence in Tears of the Kingdom. And this is something we've been trying to figure out since the very beginning of all the information we've gotten about this game. And with the recent trailer, we do have more information. But before we go into this, I first want to talk about some of the changes and some of the different considerations I have going into the creation of this sequence. So firstly, the changes we've seen since the very first trailer. With the first trailer or teaser, there were some things that we saw that don't seem to be quite the same anymore. For example, when we see Ganondorf, we assume Ganondorf, turn his head in his mummified state, it looks a little different. In the opening teaser, it was very red all around, yet in the most recent trailer, it's a little darker, it's a little different. But perhaps what's more of a significant change is what has happened to Link. In the recent trailer, we saw that Link's basically his entire right half, his right shoulder, even his armor, have been totally destroyed. His arm looks burned. There's a lot of damage there and it looks very painful. It didn't appear to look that way in the very first teaser. Now it could be that it just didn't show that off. However, when we take a look at the shot where Link was trying to grab Zelda's hand from the first teaser as opposed to what we saw with the recent trailer, the hands look different. Now it's possible Zelda falls more than once and Link reaches out to grab her more than once in the opening sequence of the game, but based off the information we have right now, it seems to be that this opening has changed. And changes should be expected. They showed us an initial trailer for the opening sequence of the game back in 2019. This is now 2023. It's been nearly 4 years since then, maybe about 3.5. So certainly there have been changes, and we may be seeing some with the opening sequence of the game. Not every element or asset or detail is going to look exactly the same. With that said, now let's go over some questions and ideas going into the opening sequence. For example, why are Link and Zelda even exploring these underground areas of Hyrule? So if we take a look at the end of Breath of the Wild, Link and Zelda were going over to the Zoras in part because there was something off about Vah Ruta. They wanted to find out what was going on with it. And in all the footage for Tears of the Kingdom, while we may have seen some evidence of Sheikah technology now, we haven't seen the Sheikah Shrines or the Sheikah Towers. They are still absent. And we take into consideration that they initially were underground back in Breath of the Wild, maybe something happened with the Sheikah technology when Link and Zelda defeated Calamity Ganon. And in the continual efforts to restore Hyrule, Link and Zelda go exploring, trying to find answers as to what's going on with the Sheikah technology, and that leads them underground, where a lot of Sheikah technology was, and this eventually takes them to this tomb that is housing what appears to be a corpse or mummified version of what most of us believe is Ganondorf. But while I feel pretty good about that theory explaining why they're there, I'm still unsure as to what exactly caused Ganondorf and his resurrection, because when Link and Zelda are there, something happens that causes the malice to erupt, for the environment to break up. There's a change. We see that there's this green hand. We presume it's related to Zonai, so for now, if I refer to it as a Zonai hand, just keep that in mind. It may not be Zonai, but for now, that's just what we're going to assume. So with this green Zonai hand, it's holding down Ganondorf. It's upon his chest. And for what it appears, it seems like it's restraining Ganondorf, keeping him there. It's what sort of held him in place all this time, all these years. Yet, we see the hand leave Ganondorf's chest and fuse with Link's hand. What happened? What caused this event? because if the hand was holding back Ganondorf, something that's clearly an incredibly important job, what would cause the hand to stop that? Well, it's possible that the hand maybe didn't have total control over Ganondorf. Maybe Ganondorf was already showing signs of coming back to life. After all, malice has been coming from this all this time, building up and becoming Calamity Ganon every so many years. So it isn't like the hand is completely stopping and thwarting the efforts of this evil mummy Ganondorf. And with that in mind, it's not that much of a stretch to think that perhaps Ganondorf could do other things beyond just letting malice seep out, gather up, and becoming the next calamitous attack upon Hyrule. Maybe he could cause some damage. We do see a shot from the opening teaser where the ground below Link and Zelda breaks up, and this doesn't seem to happen during the attack once Ganondorf is actually resurrected, because thanks to the most recent trailer, we actually have some footage showing Link waging battle with this mummified Ganondorf. Now, this Ganondorf is still in place, but the malice is erupting from him, attacking him, and he doesn't seem to be holding the torch at this point. So there seems to be a difference in time from this moment when he's holding the torch and the ground below him breaks up, and when he's dueling with Ganondorf and all these malice attacks. So maybe this initial damage, this initial crumbling of the floor, is what sets things off. Maybe the green hand comes in to save Link and Zelda, maybe it simply falls off and comes in to save later, but this initial damage it's caused could perhaps be related to Link and Zelda coming in, inciting the anger within this Ganondorf, causing that damage, and ultimately breaking what we're going to assume is a fairly loose seal holding back Ganondorf with this green Zonai hand. But moving on from Ganondorf and the Zonai hand, what about Zelda? We see that Zelda falls down a hole. However, in the most recent trailer, we actually get some dialogue from what appears to be the exact same voice actress, so we're assuming it's still Zelda. However, we do see this footage of this woman that holds hands with Link's new Zonai hand later into the trailer. And the dialogue we get from Zelda throughout the trailer is two different lines. One is asking for help for Link, and the other is talking about how Link can't take on Ganondorf. He seems too strong for him. So considering they're having somewhat of a crazy attack in the opening sequence of the game, this dialogue, I'm not sure all takes place right there, right before Zelda falls down. Perhaps as Zelda's falling, she asks for help, and that's when the green hand comes and saves Link, and that's why it grabs him and then fuses with his hand. That's a possibility. But the other line where Zelda talks about how Link may not be able to stop the evil this time around, that seems to be more of a calculated thought, something that would require witnessing this overall attack and a conversation that would be taking place afterwards. So it's still not very clear what exactly happens to Zelda. Maybe she does die and somehow her spirit ascends to the skies above and she becomes Hylia fully, and that's what we're witnessing in the trailer. Maybe that other woman is another character, perhaps relating to some of the imagery we've seen where two different characters are holding hands. And maybe Zelda is either dead or not dead, but simply elsewhere, but because of her powers, she can still speak through her mind, her thoughts, her spirit, and relay these messages to Link, as she did in Breath of the Wild. And then with Link, we see that Link is waging battle with this mummy Ganondorf. His sword is destroyed, his arm and shoulder are destroyed. He's seen more damage than ever before, and it doesn't look like he is in any position to win this fight, because we do know that the Master Sword is eventually destroyed, likely from this battle. So how does he escape? How does this lead to the opening of the game? Well, if we take a look at the footage we've seen throughout for Tears of the Kingdom, we've observed that there are multiple spots in the map that show these green swirly energies, similar to that green swirly energy we see in the very first trailer. And we've also seen a lot of islands in the sky. We've seen this ability to shoot straight up into the sky with this green sort of like puddle drop thing, and we see these spires at the bottom of the islands. My personal theory is that these green spirals are launching points all throughout the map to take you up into the sky. And it wouldn't shock me if that tomb, the setting for the battle that takes place at the opening of the game between Link and Ganondorf, perhaps could be another one of these launching points, and once the green hand, the Zonai hand, whatever you want to call it, fuses with Link, it then becomes an option to escape that way. So they escape to the sky through this launching point. And I think that's the best way to explain how Link could escape this very terrible situation where he's totally wrecked, his sword is destroyed, because he makes an escape thanks to the green hand taking him to the sky, where there's a huge focus for this game, and from some of the footage we've seen throughout the different trailers, it does look like it's a starting point, potentially even somewhat of like a comparison to the Great Plateau, where there'll be some sky islands you explore, and that's kind of like the opening gameplay part of the game. So while we still don't have all the answers, we have a little bit more information now, and with all this in mind, I think it's now time to show you what I put together to show off something that's perhaps somewhat representative of the opening sequence of the game. Take a look.
Please, lend him your power.
Rise, my servants. Sweep over Hyrule. Eliminate this kingdom and her allies. Leave no survivors!
Wake up, Link. But Link, I am not sure you'll be able to stop him.
So what did you guys think? Would you guys have arranged things slightly differently? Do you have different opinions as to how things go about in the beginning of the game? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, everyone, this is On Just Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.